Hello, everybody, subscribers, viewers, whoever you are. I just want to say a huge thank you for your patience. A couple of people have chased me up and asked when this was going to go down. But if you know me personally or you have spoken to me, then you'll know what the situation has been, and things have been a bit rocky recently. I'm doing my best to get on top of things and hopefully get back to recording soon. This was recorded, I think, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, in which we sat down just to have a quick discussion about how we were going to go forward, and it just kind of snowballed into a full-blown discussion. We've already had another sit down since, but I've only just gotten around to editing this episode now, so hopefully I'll be able to get the next one done fairly soon, and work around my schedule. Hopefully I can also start recording some new episodes for you as long as everybody else is on board. So I just want to say huge thank you to obviously the people that don't actually need any introduction, Joe and Barbara Sullivan. Mommy and Daddy Plague, they've been absolutely amazing during this whole thing. They were quite happy to just kind of sit down and talk about the stories that they don't normally get to talk about. Because whenever they've done interviews in the past, it's always the same things. They get asked the same 10 questions over and over again, and every different magazine just writes about it in their own way. We've all read those interviews time and time again, and I just want to have them share the things that they want to share with the public, the stuff that they don't normally get out there. So fingers crossed that you will enjoy this as much as I did hearing it, and as much as Joe and Barbara have enjoyed sharing it. So yes, a big thank you to Joe and Barbara, and of course the whole Sullivan family. And I really do hope you enjoy this. It's been obviously a long kind of process to try and get this to you. So without any more ado, I really, really, really hope that you enjoy this. Peace out.
Well, let's go. Early memory of that shows who Jimmy is for me is, he's the second child, so he has an older sister who is naturally walking and all that. And when he's a baby, shows his intense desire to keep up and compete. He was walking at like 8 months old, right? 7, 8 months old. So we had in our living room, we have a fireplace. We had a TV stand and a TV on it. And on top of the TV, we had a fish bowl with little tropical fish in it. And there were some kids' toys around. And there was this triangular toy, which, it was supposed to be educational. On one side of the triangle, you can put letters and you can write on it. The next side, it's pegboard. And the next side, it's some other thing. So it's educational. He slid that thing over. This is at 8 months, I want to say, maybe 7. Doesn't talk, but he's slid that thing over next to the TV. He's climbed up on top of the triangle. So he's standing on the point of the triangle and he's watching those fish and he's reaching in there and grabbing them. And he gets one and he drops it. And we turn and look and there's fish flopping on the floor and there's Jimmy up there grabbing fish. And what's the first thing you do? You think, my child is going to fall and kill himself. No, it's quick, get the camera.
My kid is a foot up on a rickety thing on bricks.
Oh, he's over bricks.
And I go grab a camera.
Yeah, if he's going to fall, he's going to die. But
I have heard that kind of thing that, like, when it's your first child, everybody's like, call an ambulance. When it's your second child, everybody's like, you'll be fine.
You'll be good. You'll be good. So now that makes me think he broke a lot of bones too, but that's a different story, I guess. But,
yeah, I was quite, I wasn't very fragile, but I got a lot of damage when I was younger.
So I'll take something chronologically out of order here. I have a huge family. I've got a dozen brothers and sisters. There's spouses, there's other kids. I'm the oldest, so my I'm the first one to have children out of that group.
Yeah.
So when we're still gathering as a family, and our idea of a good time, Thanksgiving, we gather, we go, first we all go out and we play some football for a while, and then we play baseball for a while, and then we go back to the family house and we start playing other stuff. And we enjoy hanging out and playing things together. So here's Jimmy and Kelly, both good athletes. You know, they're ready to play everything. And Jimmy, I'm going to say at probably 7, 8 years old, he's a phenomenal athlete. So it's like soccer season. No, it was Easter. So it's Easter we gathered, and we go out and we find a field. We climb into, with the fences or whatever, and we're ready. We're starting to kick the ball around to get ready. Jimmy does a slide to keep the ball from going across the line. He's just showing off. I don't know. But he puts his hand down and he comes up. It's like, oh, my hand hurts. And time goes on, and it's like, no, man, that's still hurting. So we end up taking him to a emergency. It's Easter, so it's Sunday, but there's some emergency place open. They take x-ray. Sure enough, he's got a green stick fracture. We hit it like this, and this bone has been buckled. Okay, whatever. He gets a cast. He's all right. The next year, Easter again, Jimmy has discovered trees and climbing in trees. Out front of our house, we had a tree, and it's like, didn't Jimmy go out the front door? You go out. He's up in the tree reading a book. I mean, but it's like trees must be climbed. So he's up in the tree because that's just something nobody does. They climb in a tree and read a book. Anyway, that's Jimmy. But we're back at my mom's house, big house, people in the yard getting ready to play things. Jimmy's climbing trees now. And he climbs this one tree and thinks it's a good idea for some reason to like jump from this branch to that one and catch it. And so what he does is he leaps in the air, catches it, swings, his body swings out, and he lets go and he turns and he manages to save his head, but he lands on his hands. And he comes walking up the stairs, holding his hands going, I think I hurt my arms. We go to the same emergency care place, and they x-ray him and they go, wait, this kid was in here last year. Same break in the one arm, and now he's got the other one broken just to boot. So he ends up with 2 casts.
Oh my God.
Wasn't that the year? That year I just remembered about it.
He went through Austin's window.
Oh, he went through the window. Jeez. Anyway, that's Jimmy at family gatherings. So like, if I can climb, I can surely jump in the tree. Anyway, he had a friend named Austin. Okay, this is way out of chronology here. So Jimmy played soccer. Jimmy was a good soccer player, really good soccer player.
Yeah.
And even better basketball player. Those are 2 sports that involve physical ability to move, to think, to get to ahead where the ball should be, to pass to the place where somebody's going to be, all these kind of things. And it was just, he was so good at that kind of thing. So Matt, his early relationship with Matt was playing basketball with him.
This is Matt Sanders, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to be rambling so much here, but
it's fine. I've got time.
I don't even remember where I was going with that. The young athlete. So, okay, Austin. Okay, so when he's probably 11, he's playing an under 12 soccer team, and there's a 12-year-old kid named Austin, and Jimmy just hits it off with this guy. This guy's a bull and a good attack and a good striker, and Jimmy's a midfielder that can just feed it to him. Anyway, they have a great time, and Jimmy's friends with everybody. Austin's a friend. So after that year, we don't see Austin much, but I'm going to detour. So he gets invited to spend the night at Austin's house, and they're going to camp in the backyard, set up a tent, sleep in the backyard. Seems like a cool idea.
Yeah.
And so the mom's got, there's a sliding glass door that, is closed to the backyard. They come, Jimmy comes in the house to get like a blanket, whatever. And then he decided, oh man, it's too cold out here. No, wait, he came in to get the blanket. Anyway, he turns around and is going to run back into the house, and the door, that glass door is closed. He goes smash right into it. Now, the firemen are telling us, and Austin are telling us this stuff later. We get the call at 1 a.m, asleep, from Austin. Austin's like, Joe, the medics are here. Jimmy went through the window. I'm like, so I drive over there in a hurry. I get to the house. I know the mom. We go in the front door. The mom is laying on the couch with the fireman attending to her. I'm like, where's Jimmy? Oh, he's in there. You go in there and there's another fireman with him, but his leg is bandaged up, his arm is bandaged up, and he's a skinny little dude. He looks pretty forlorn right then. And there's a fireman looking at the back with his flashlight. You know, there's this opening in the glass with glass hanging out everywhere. He went out and managed to come back through that. It's like he bounced and jumped back through it. And I don't know how he did that without, killing himself. So anyway, my turn with Jimmy. Jimmy, they say, yeah, he needs to go to the hospital right now. And so I take him to the hospital, and it's because the arm, there's a gouge in that arm that clipped tendons in here, so that the doctor, the hospital didn't want to try to repair it himself. He says, we're going to call a plastic surgeon to deal with those delicate things in there. So I'm with Jimmy, and the other guy's mom is okay. What she had done was grabbed like 2 dresses and clamped them on his arm and his hand to keep him from bleeding to death because he was pouring blood. So she's clamped on him while her son is calling first the paramedics, then call us, and then she passes out. She's done. So they took care of her anyway. But I took him to the hospital, and man, I remember that because Jimmy is laying there with his arm. There's this big open gash in the arm, and in order for them to work in there, they gotta inject him with painkillers or whatever. Yeah. And me holding on to him as they stick the needles in him. Oh my gosh, that I remember. I remember, and I've used it before when trying to explain what a parent wants to do for their child. Hold on to him while this is happening because I can't stop it from hurting. But anyway, yes, Jimmy went through a window. That one was bad cuts, leg and arm.
It's unbelievable that after all these like broken wrists and these severed tendons, that he was able to hold a drumstick.
That was a kid that year.
That year, he not only, so he was still, was it when he was double casted? So imagine him.
No, it was after that when he had the bandage on his arm, and they had done all the stitches and stuff, and he was scheduled to go in and get the stitches out, and that's when he went through the window at school.
With the other arm, right?
And he broke his arm, and they had I had to call and cancel the appointment for the plastic surgeon to get the stitches out because his arm was in another cast. And then shortly after he got that cast off, he was over at his friend Chris's house, and he went up in the attic for some reason, and he fell through the ceiling, broke the other arm.
He fell through the ceiling at this guy's house. So that was 3 of those things in one period of time, and that impacted him. He was starting to think, okay, I'm in danger here. It's like, maybe I can't keep doing this stuff. It's like he was really impacted by the 3rd of those. When he would finally, over his friends, just screwing around and goes through the ceiling and into something, it's like he was different for a while. He was more thoughtful for a few months. That's about it. But yeah, anyway.
I've heard the stories that are out there, but just so far from what you've said, I understand the whole fiction scenario. Like, nobody would believe like his life story because it just sounds so made up. And hearing this from you now,
it's a good point.
Just proves the whole thing. Like,
so let me make a comment about Jimmy was a hard guy to be the parent of or a teacher of, because you're the ones that are trying to keep him from killing himself, keep him from disrupting everything. And he was hard on teachers too. And it was hard on us. I mean, we loved him, but it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do to keep him from self-destruction? Because none of it was
give him up for adoption.
It was all fun. He was doing something fun, but
Happiest kid alive.
that's right.
What was that? Sorry.
Oh, she said happiest kid alive. He was wildly, yeah. So he's got an older sister and a younger sister.
Yeah.
And he loves, I mean, he does it with his friend. There's some of that stuff out there. You see him do it, but he just can't resist poking you, and whacking you. And so we would try to tell him with a lot of things like, Jimmy, 3 times is enough, just don't keep doing it if they don't like it. Just 3 times is enough. So somewhere later, he decided it had to be 7 times or whatever. And he'd punch somebody and he'd go, I'm sorry, I got to do it. Bang, 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 bang. Finish hitting them the number of times, the required number of times. But yeah,
like
anyway.
Quota to make up for the day. Like if I do it all now, I'll leave you alone.
Well, no, I like grabbing and hugging people and poking. I walk by some friend of mine, I want to punch him in the arm, basically just to tap him. It's like touch.
Yeah.
I care about you. You're there. Yeah, I love you. All my brothers, we, hug each other and mess around. Anyway, so Jimmy just wanted to interact with everybody in their face. And sometimes that was too much for people. I mean, he could scare you when he would get in your face, and because he's moving so fast. And anyway, so at school, he would kind of terrorize people, I think, without meaning to. He would anyway. But the poor teachers, yeah, because Jimmy's got a real quick brain with thinking something funny, and I can think of stuff like, oh, this would be funny. Go through the thought process of, nah, this is not an appropriate time to say that, and not say it a couple times. Jimmy does the calculation, goes, nope, too funny, says it or does it, gets thrown out of the class.
It's
over. So. When he went to high school, his first 2 years of high school, he was at one school, and they were all tired of him by then, the teachers, the principals, everybody. In fact, I'm going to go back to 2nd grade, but
Kindergarten.
Yeah.
3 kindergartens.
That's right. He went to 3 different kindergartens. Well, he's a smart kid and wants to do stuff. And in kindergarten, they want you to sit there and not do this. In his first kindergarten,
the first one was a developmental kindergarten.
No, that was the second one.
That was the second. No.
The first one they put him in, he was not doing what they wanted, so they put him in developmental kindergarten, which is like lower level, and he was angry then. That's why he just knocked kids over and their stuff over, and they say, okay, yeah, we can't deal with him. So we put him in our Catholic school where my older daughter had gone, and they're like, sit down and do your work. He was okay with that. There was lots of work to do. It was like 2nd grade level compared to the kindergarten. The kindergarten he was in, the Catholic school kindergarten was like 2nd grade level stuff. Yeah. So it pressed him. He had stuff to do.
He was reading already well before kindergarten. So
yeah, he was writing stuff, right?
Yeah.
Age is kindergarten, just because it's a bit different over here, the school system.
5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, our normal elementary starts 6 years old, grade 1 goes up till 8th grade. But so yeah, he was before the 1st grade, and so he did well there for a couple of years. And then, but when you in a school, you go out on the playground and there's stuff going on, whatever's going on, whenever the voices get loud, whenever people are in each other's faces, Jimmy's there. Now he's there because he's drawn to it. Anything's going on, he runs over to see what's going on. But the people in charge of the yard, they see him and they go, Sullivan. And he was always getting in trouble whether he had anything to do with it or not, because he showed up. And he got tired of that. He got tired of being the guy they were always throwing out and picking on, So we switched him to another school in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, I guess.
3rd grade.
Okay, so.
He came to us with a list.
he wrote down a list. That's 7, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He writes this list of the reasons he wants to go to another school. Doesn't like wearing a uniform, wants to wear what he wants to wear. Okay. His friends are over there.
The art program.
They have an art program. He wrote down, we were very impressed. He wrote this list of reasons he wanted to switch schools. So we thought, well, hey, if he's got reasons, let's go with it. Let's let him do it. And he did pretty well there.
Yeah.
He had one teacher who took no crap from him and said, sit down and do your work. And he was okay with that. He had twice in his early career, he had teachers who wouldn't take any, they just wouldn't put up with it. And they were authoritative in the classroom. He cooperated. But if you were going to be sitting up there going, now children, oh, he was going to run all over you. So, in second grade at St. Bonaventure, before he left, he can finish his work fast, and then he's in trouble. Then he's trouble because he's bored and he needs something to do. Mm-hmm. She started a program over there, Meet the Masters, right?
No. Science.
Oh, she did science. She would bring in like experiments to have at the back of the room that the teacher said, when you're done with your work, you can go back there and do something more that's interesting. And it kept him sane in the classroom. So anyway, school was not his thing because it was boring basically. And if he's there with his friends, he wants to screw around, poke them, jump on them, whatever. So in high school, probably drinking at the same time, although that wasn't really in my mind. But after 2 years in the first high school, he was done with them and they were done with him. So he switched to Huntington High School, which is where Matt and Brian and them were going. And he had some.
Was he at Ocean View before Huntington?
Ocean View was the first one, yeah.
Okay, so that's where he met, okay.
And let's jump. He has a younger sister who's 2 years behind him, and she also went to Ocean View. And they would not give her the time of day because, you're that guy's sister. They expect her to be a screw up. She had to prove herself. Look, I'm a good student anyway. But he went to Huntington for about 5 months and they threw him out. So over here, we have a thing called a continuation high school, which is where you go when you kind of don't fit into the regular. It could be you're been just let out of juvenile hall. It could be you got family issues, whatever. If you don't fit into the normal way of doing school, you can go there. And the teachers are different and they more individualized stuff. 3 days is all he lasted there because the principal just get him out of here. Because he would go in wearing his giant funky hat and his different color long socks and his crazy belt, whatever. And he'd hang on the door like, woohoo. They're just like, okay. Jimmy was not having school. However, when his friends a year later were graduating, then he thought, wait a minute, I need to get a diploma. I don't want to be behind. If they're getting diplomas, I want a diploma. So he actually went to night school and where you do an individual package, and he did fine. He cranked it out, and he was kind of proud to wear a gown and get a diploma. So, but fortunately, that was it for school. We don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, he did a year and a half worth of work in about 2 months.
Yeah. So
all you need to do is just apply yourself that little bit.
He was, you'll have to say how old he was, but we had typewriters. There were no computers in the house back then, but I had a typewriter and he loved to write stuff. And he went in and one time was typing, and you had to really look hard to see what it was. And he realized it was totally phonetic. So not the way we put the letters together in the English language.
No spaces, punctuation.
But the words were there and he was writing stories.
Yeah, that was a 6.
Yeah, he was real young. And we got that around somewhere. I'm going to have to look that up because it's just such a treasure to figure out what he's saying with the sounds. And it's like, that's really cool. So anyway, and he did proceed later. He wrote whenever he wanted to write scary things, and his image, the way he would write, it's like, even in music too, images and feelings and stuff that
I saw a small video online. I think it was taken at the pizza party or something for his birthday or something like that. And you were talking about when he created the the Pinkley Smooth song, The Play, which is the one that's about the tree monster. And you were talking about how he built this story and how, like, you know, he was sat on the porch playing this song or something, and you know.
Well, okay, the sitting on the porch would be Jimmy when he was at home in our house and nobody was there would create on the piano. Now, oh, and that picture, I sent a picture and you sent me one of a sketch that
that's
Taylor did of it.
That one.
So that's now that somebody took that picture, but my wife, when she would come home and Jimmy was home and playing on that piano, it's right inside the front door, he would stop if she came in, but she would sit out on the porch and listen to him. And
the hours on that porch.
And he never had any piano training. He just would bang away on it, and you know,
he got good at piano. I don't know how.
Yeah, he was definitely destined for the music life.
And no musical training that would, I mean, in a way, I remember him saying that Brian listened to something once and said, you know, that makes no sense musically, but I like it. And maybe there was no limits on him because he didn't learn how to do it any particular way.
There was, I think Brian Sr. said that about Beast and the Harlot, because at the end of Beast and the Harlot, they do the intro again, but then they take it up this octave. And I mean, you know, Brian Sr. is quite musical, obviously, and he kind of says, like, I don't know what you've done. I don't know why you decided to do it, but it works. Like, you know, whatever you've done, like, it's genius. And they're all just like, that's exactly what we meant to do, but it wasn't. We were just screwing around, and that's what they came up with. But he sat there going, nobody would do that, but you did, and that puts you above the rest.
Well, you mentioned the tree monster. That was, and now we're going to get into who he's playing with and all that stuff. But I remember driving up to go camp, or we were all in the car, so we were driving a long ways, and we were driving through mountains. I think we were going camping, but we had this little cassette because it was cassettes back then. Mm-hmm. And we're listening to this stuff on cassette. It's like, you know, trying to listen to what's going on, the tree monster, make it grow, and all that stuff. It's just like, wow, what an experience trying to figure out what's going on in these things. And when he would let you listen to stuff, he was always a little, you know, wondering what you were going to think, and a little bit out there, a little bit exposed, if you will. I think it's partly he didn't share his music with the Avenged Sevenfold early. He was more holding it to himself, and you know, he and Brian maybe would work on stuff, and he would work on his own stuff, and just not really ready to put himself out there and be judged for it. You know, do you think this is any good? And when he finally started letting them have some, they just are like, we want more of it, you know. That's great. Give us more. Help, you know, come on. Yeah. And then he's willing to share with them, and they encourage him. I mean, all of Jimmy is from encouragement by his friends, you know, who he values and looks up to. I just remembered, I was starting to tell you about Austin when Jimmy went through the window. So this is Austin, a friend from 12 years old, that they went off different directions, you know?
Yeah. Sorry.
Austin lives in Huntington Beach. Jimmy gets famous, if you will. Yeah. And one day in a bar in Huntington Beach, whatever, there's Austin, and Austin comes over to say, hey, I don't want to bother you. I just wanted to say I'm really happy. He's like, come here, you know, sit down. And his focus is Austin for the next hour because Austin's a friend. It's been a dozen years, but Austin's a friend, and he just valued friends, and Austin, you know, we'll always remember that. And so many other, we hear from people who had an encounter with them or something like that. Well, you wrote some things. It's just you're in front of him.
I dug this out as well.
Yeah. I don't even know who that is.
That's me with Jimmy.
Oh, that's you. Oh, okay. Okay.
In 2008.
Very cool. Yeah.
Very low quality.
Yeah, it's all right.
Phone.
I recognize one guy in there.
Yeah, I've changed. I've changed since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it was quite the experience as well. But sorry, continue.
So, no, I mean, I was going on about school and early years and that kind of thing. So much of that was either his sports and sports friends or music, and music friends. And he drummed on everything from the time he was tiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kitchen table, the bathtub, you got shampoo bottles,
yeah.
and yell and make noise and all that, but drumming on things. So we got him had that little stand-up keyboard thing and a little Sears drum set. But even before that, we had a record player that would play, a little toy Fisher-Price record player would play 45 RPM, one song on one side.
Yeah.
We had stacks of these old rock and roll Elvis, and so we'd play him, or we'd let him play him, and he would play. But best image I got is he's got his Dodger baseball hat on, his sunglasses, he's got this toy guitar on, and we're playing I Can't Drive 55, Sammy Hagar, just I shared.
Or you got to swear.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, he loved.
God, y'all.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Anyway, so he would play these little 45s, and it didn't matter. It was music. He could turn it up. He could just suck it in. And so I'm going to say nuts rock and roll type stuff, which is what I love, what my wife and I grew up with. And we loved it, and we shared it with him, and he just infected him. He was just so just wanted to bang on the piano and drum and everything. And it was like a focus for that energy to drum. And so the little Sears drum kit, he just beat the crap out of that thing.
Sears drum kit was to save my furniture.
To save her furniture. Yeah, there you go. We got to get him something to pound on besides our stuff, our kitchen table. Oh, so I'm going to share we would call him Jimmy Jammer C's, right?
Jimmy Jam Jones.
Well, but the C's, because what she was always saying is Jimmy Jammer's cease and desist. So we just started calling him Jimmy Jammer C's. But it was like, again, please stop. We've got a place for that. Anyway, so the drums, and of course, then there's music, there's drums, and he wants to keep learning and listening. And how old was he when he started with Jeanette? I mean, 10?
I first took him to drum lessons when he was 5, going on 6. And he was damaging the rims of the guy's drums because he was drumming so hard. And he was drumming well, but he just couldn't keep the angle right. So he was hurting the guy's rims. So the guy dropped him and wouldn't let him play anymore. So then I waited 2 years. So he was 8.
Yeah.
And I went to a music store in Huntington Beach.
Come on.
Let you see me.
There you
So
go.
I went to a music store in Huntington Beach, and their regular drum teacher was gone. I didn't know that. And Jeanette Raitt, she has a different last name now, but Jeanette Raitt was there and subbing. And then after like a month, she was going to leave, and Jimmy was heartbroken because they bonded like nobody's business.
Was she that was in that concert that they did in the tribute video?
Yes, that was his teacher. And so she wanted to keep teaching him. So I drove him all the way to Hermosa Beach from here, which was probably a 45-minute, hour-long drive each way for his lessons for a couple of years. And then when he turned 10, she invited him into, she was a college professor at Harbor College. And she said, enroll, take my class. You need to take this drum class. And the drum classes were fascinating. They were all about the history of drums, a lot of New Orleans jazz stuff, the fact that the snare and different things were native to the United States, that they were invented here. And he just learned a lot about drums in general. And so that's when a handful of them in one of these classes developed the Looney Booms idea, because they all it was one of those magical things where they all hit it off. And they were all, 20 years older than he was, but or at least 10 years older than he was. And but they all loved him and he loved them. And we went to that college 2-3 times a week. And again, it's an hour drive from here. But it was so worth it because he learned so much and they gave him such creative freedom. And Jeanette, we finally reached a point where she quit giving him lessons because she said that she had taught him everything she knew. And she had recommended another teacher, but at that point, he felt like he wanted to just go out, and that's when he joined the Little No Regret band with the high school kids. So he was playing, he was still developing and learning, but that was the end of his formal lessons.
So as I recall, the idea, you went to that Huntington music place for lessons because he wanted a drum kit, a real one, and you said, you've got to take lessons, right?
Yes, he had
we'll
to take
buy you
lessons
one
for a
if you
couple
take
years
lessons.
before he'd get his own drum kit.
And so he was willing to sacrifice, that was a sacrifice to go take lessons. But, but she took the approach of saying, what do you want to play? And he was at that point into metal, starting to get into that.
Metallica, yeah.
And he was transcribing. She said that
she had him transcribing things, and he did not know what a music staff was. He didn't know what notes were, quarter notes, whole notes. He would just write it all down in this bizarre thing that she was able to look at and go, it's not.
I know what he's doing.
Technically, it's not what it's supposed to be, but it's perfect. He's transcribing these
the stories. He wrote it all out phonetically. Then he was like symbol,
right. Right.
So point there, he could hear, and I can't. Mm-hmm. You hear Metallica playing, I can't hear all the things that are being hit. It sounds good. I like the rhythm, but he can hear the different things, and that's a key thing. He was able to hear and therefore transcribe things. And Jeanette then just brought him along. What do you want to learn to play? And of course, he's willing to work if it's something he wants to do. And the Looney Booms, I mean, when we would watch them, they're playing on brake drums and bankers boxes, anything that could be making percussion sounds, they experimented with it. And some of when he would get to play with them on a concert of theirs, there's people on marimbas and xylophones and all different kind of other percussion things and shaking things, or like they sit around a table and they're taking their turns making noise. They're doing it with their voices. So it expanded him as far as what percussion is.
Yeah.
And these are older guys that are also into it. And he really looked up to them. So when he wants to go, hey, Tim and Rob are having a show. I want to go to the show. I want to see what they do. So we'd take them to, these guys playing, and that was cool stuff too. Because he just loved it.
A couple of guys from Looney Booms went on tour one summer, and he was 10. It broke his heart that they wouldn't take him with them.
So he is now a precocious drummer who wants to deal with a 11-year-old or a 12-year-old, So his younger sister was out of school, who had a teacher. We talked to the teacher. Somehow or another, it comes up that her son's got a band. He's a guitarist. They could use a drummer. We say, would you please ask your son if he's willing to let Jimmy give it a try? And so Ryan Spillers, Kevin, Jimmy, and there was another kid in there, but there was no name to that band. That was before No Regret. I'm going to just call it the Ryan Spillers Band. But they also don't have a singer. They're willing to go to your house, and I think it was Kevin's house. I took them to Kevin's house, and they were upstairs. It was a graduation party, not a big one, but party going on downstairs. They're upstairs. They're ready to play. They only got a couple songs. One of them is Paint It Black, the Rolling Stones song.
Yeah.
Paint It Black. They're going to play it. They're inviting anybody wants to sing, they can sing. I was so tempted. I thought, nah, this just ain't right. They have the little guy in there singing. So anyway, they played Paint It Black, and they played, there was another song. I don't remember if they played it initially.
Did they play Lullaby by Dramarama?
Not that I remember, but that's okay. My memory's not superb. What's the song that goes Romeo and Juliet? They're talking about a suicide pact, these children. Oh, Lord Almighty.
I know the one you mean, but I can't.
I'll come up with it eventually. That was another one that the band early on learned how to play. That was, I got a few songs that they can play. But Jimmy, again, is 12, and these guys are 16. They're happy to play with them. Where do you play? You find a garage, And in the meantime, in our house, we let him play in the garage once, and all the neighbors said, "Oh my God, what's going on? It's too noisy." So we let him play in the house. So we had it was either his bedroom or our living room, and the windows were all closed, and it was hot, and we listened. In fact, there were several different places in the house, but his mom let him play in the house, which is really something. And it was good, because then he moved to the band that became No Regret was Kevin, this guitarist from his first acquaintance, high school, and a guy that they called Big Steve, who was huge. I'm going to say he was 6'8". Maybe he's only 6'6", but he sure looked big, and a big guy, who we later discovered as a bank teller. That was pretty cool. We never saw him in his suit before, but
you won't be trying to rob that bank.
but Kevin and Big Steve and Jimmy, and then they needed a singer, so they would practice and play and then entertain singers. And they had a guy when they had No Regret. They had a guy who could sing. I thought he could sing pretty well, but who gets them the gigs? Who finds us a place to play?
Mm.
That's something he was kind of doing or trying to do or supposed to do, and it sort of worked and sort of didn't. Where do you get to play when you're 16? Or I don't know how old he was then. He's probably 14. I mean, they couldn't find places to play very well. We drove them one time out to, there's a part of our territory that's out in the nobody lives out here. Little communities are developing. You can find some kind of build yourself houses and a bar with one street light out way the heck out there. They got to play at one of those places, and we drove and thought, oh, good Lord, where are we? I hope we come back alive. We finally get there. I had my brother Dan too. Anyway, there was a few of us, like family. There was the four of them. There was the bar. There was probably three other people in the bar, but they got to play. Don't Fear the Reaper. That's the song I was trying to think of. Don't Fear the Reaper. But so they only got a few songs, but they're starting to do metal stuff now. And my brother, who went after they played, he said, "Oh, I like it. It's pretty crunchy," which means, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we hauled them around. They looked for places to play. If it was somebody's house with a party going on, and a drummer's got a lot of gear, Every cymbal's got its big assembly that goes with it. Our van is full up with drums and equipment. We take it, and he says, "You stay out in the car." Okay, I'll stay out in the car. They're playing in the backyard. I think they're probably doing well, but I had to stay out in the car. Jimmy was a little embarrassed to have his parents around, but he was growing through all these, Looney Booms was still wonderful for him. Kevin, when they couldn't get the whole band. Oh, so in Kevin's garage, they had a place they could play. And Big Steve's, they put the carpet on the walls. They're trying to insulate the garage so it doesn't irritate the neighbors.
Yeah.
And any of those places, Matt's house had one too. They had 3 different garages that I've seen him play in that, when you get there to pick him up or whatever, the garage door opens and the steam comes out of there because, man, they're all sweating and hot and they've been banging away on the thing. Anyway, it was pretty cool. Seeing him trying to find a place to play. And that was always it, trying to find a place to play. So they went through with no regret, had a singer for a while, and they got some places to play, but mostly it was practicing. And then that singer, I don't know what happened to him. I think he disappeared. They got a guy for a while called 00. That was his nickname. And this is an older guy who's like in charge. I'm gonna get us, like he was in charge, it was now his band and he was gonna find the places and tell them what to do. And that worked for a while. And then, Jimmy was like, yeah, this ain't working. And somewhere in there, he went and tried the ska band, Tim Suburban Legends, yeah, because he knew you got to have somebody who can get you places to play. You got to have somebody with connections. They're looking for connections, and
yeah. So I think Suburban Legends was around, I think 98, something like that.
Whatever. I have no idea.
It was just before Avenged Sevenfold, and that was 99.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. And and in the meantime, Jimmy's met Brian at school. They have you've heard that online. Jimmy says, "What are you doing?" Brian punches him. It's like, "Hey, now we're good friends." And
the principal's office. I like you.
But Brian lived not too far away, and so they were allowed to play at Brian's house. So you take Jimmy's stuff over there, or he could play. They had drums and they play here in the room, yeah. And of course, in the meantime, he's listening to thousands of cassettes of every different kind of band.
Jimmy was like a sponge around Brian Hayner Sr. Just idolized him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Hayner Sr. had made it, has connections, has a career, he knows what's going on, Yeah, Jimmy was so happy to hear that. But it took a while for them to join, with Matt. We've heard the stories, Matt saying, come play with us, man. Yeah, but you guys suck. Well, I know, but come play with us and we'll be better. Yeah, but you guys suck. Like, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah. In the meantime, though, Jimmy's playing basketball with Matt. He knows. Oh, and that was something. I'm sorry, it's probably already won. I got to tell you about basketball for a minute. Because Jimmy loved basketball. And he's precocious. He'll play with anybody. You would take the girls to the city gym where there was a little pool. How old is he?
Pickup game.
He's 12. There's men playing pickup. He's like, I'm next, just get me in. And if the guy was way taller, he'd spin around under him and throw up shots. Did not matter. So when he was not in high school yet, he's in junior high. And I coached him for a while up to 5th grade, I think. And then with 6th grade, he went to Matt's dad's team. Matt's dad invited him on that team. Now that team already was very good, knew what they were doing. Matt's like the best shooter on the team. So Jimmy's learning how basketball goes with those guys. But he was also going to junior high. And this kid was so talented basketball-wise. He could handle the ball better than anybody on the team. He would throw passes that would bounce off of guys because they weren't expecting them, but he could manage a game, see a game, shoot from anywhere. But on the way to the school where you're going to play, he'd be yelling out the bus window. So they'd sit him on the bench and they wouldn't let him play. And he'd screw around with people and they'd sit him on the bench and wouldn't let him play. And he can see this team is losing. And it's like, on, let me in for a few minutes. They'd put him in. He'd steal the ball and score. He'd steal it again and score. He'd set up this and score. And the team would be doing fine. They take him out. They lose. Jimmy could just barely stand school basketball because you got to do what you're told. Well, as a freshman, he went to Ocean View. And of course, I'm sorry, Gary, Matt's dad, and the coaches at Ocean View, they play pickup in the evening in the gym. Just the guys. They love basketball. They play, they coach, and they want to play. So they play. Jimmy wants to play. So they let him play with them. And they can see who this kid is. And they're just waiting for him to come to high school and let him play. He comes to high school. He's skinny as a rail. So the coach is thinking, well, we got to put some more meat on him and let him work into our system a little. But they're ready to play him varsity level basketball pretty much right now if he'll follow the rules. And so Jimmy is playing with the freshman team, and they put a guy in charge, another freshman who's telling you what to do. You know, Jimmy comes to blows with that guy because he ain't about to listen to what that guy tells him to do. He just couldn't deal with some guy that was not as good as him telling him what to do and not, let's play. That's Jimmy. So again, he'd go to the city gym and play anybody. He'd play any adult. And he was that good, but nobody let him play. So at Ocean View, the coach said, sorry. And he called me in and said, Joe, we'd love to play him, but this is a program. Nobody's bigger than the program. And I said, I get it. We talked to Jimmy. Are you willing to try this and that? No. And so Jimmy's basketball from then on was with whoever he could play with. And one of the sadnesses of touring, loves his friends, can't play basketball because you could hurt yourself. You could mess up a finger, a leg, an arm. He needs them all to drum. And so the only times he'd play basketball, they come off a tour. He'd be out in front of our house with my brothers or something and whipping all five of us, whatever. God, he could play basketball. And he was a soccer player too. I mean, on the cup teams here, his team would go on and win state cup. But when it came basketball season, Jimmy was he didn't want to let his basketball team down, and he would want to leave and go play. And the soccer ruler says, soccer's number one. And Jimmy's like, no, it's not. Son, soccer is number one. Jimmy says, see ya. It don't matter. He's going to play his basketball. And anyway, and so many of his friends, he played baseball because guys on his soccer team were going to play baseball. So, okay, fine, we'll play baseball. It's all about the friends, playing stuff with your friends. And it translates to music too. Let's play with our friends. Jimmy could sit in the living room here with his drum and Kevin on the guitar, and they could play Offspring songs because all you need is a guitar and a drum, right? Yeah. Anyway, and just having fun. Now, detour for a second. When we got to go see them on a Warp Tour where they were already pretty impressive, the Warp Tour's got this amazing setup where they stage the bands. Your equipment is right here. The guy who's going on next is there. The one following you is there. When that band leaves, boom, they'll run the stuff on stage, and it's your turn. So Jimmy's sitting there, ready with his drum kit, screwing around, and Offspring's on stage, and he's just like grinning at me and winking and playing all the Offspring stuff, Just life is good. When you can play, life is good. So I want to say one more moment because it's a highlight for me, and I'm going to forget it if I don't.
Yeah.
That's okay with you. Taking Jimmy to shows. I don't remember taking him to too many things until they were playing at them. I guess I took him to Chain Reaction once, maybe. But Metallica had an open air concert at Dominguez Hills, which is not too far from us, Cal State Dominguez. Suicidal Tendencies was the second, the last band before them.
Yeah.
And then they had a couple of other ones. The guys you throw shoes at. I'll come up with it in a minute. It was opened by Fight, which is Judas Priest lead singer taking on a new band, and another band in the meantime before them, and then it was Suicidal Tendencies and Metallica. So I took Jimmy, and we learned a lot of things at that concert, but essentially it started in the day, and the poor bands that go on early, everybody just wants to see Metallica, so after a while, they're like throwing stuff at them, get these guys off. But we learned about the moshing. You know, everybody comes up in front of the stage to get close to the band. When the band first starts playing, suddenly these mosh circles are breaking out, and Suicidal Tendencies got a bunch of fans that are big, ornery looking, gangster looking, tatted up, blue hat, blue bandanas. You know, when they start circling around and knocking into people, everybody runs. So we learned after the second band, like, you know, if we get up too close, all these people are going to run over us. Whatever. We held our ground, but Suicidal Tendencies comes on and they start, and all these people have filtered in are like running by. I got Jimmy up on my shoulders, just trying to stay standing, not get knocked down. That was a highlight. So I had him on my shoulders for most of Metallica because he could see, and he wasn't going to get run over. But every time a new song would start, he would know it. I don't know most of these songs, but, you know, they hit a couple notes. He's doing this, and I'm like, hold still. Yeah. Absolute highlight moment. Jimmy on my shoulders at Metallica. And Suicidal Tendencies was fantastic.
What age was he at that point? Can you remember?
I'd say 12, yeah, something like that. Because he was still easy up on my shoulders. Yeah. I'm going to say that then, because he was in time. And here they were. And it turned out as we were leaving, I saw my brother Dan. He had been there too. He was moshing in there. He's all filthy. You know, it used to be a white T-shirt, all orange brown now. Oh, well, I took Jimmy to a concert. And Dan was there too. It was White Zombie and I forget who else, but this was inside an arena. You're upstairs and there's a floor level that, you know, you wish you could be there, but you can't be there because your ticket says up there. And my brother Dan came over and got him and said, come on, Jim. And he goes in and he shows his ticket, slaps like $50 in the guy's hand and takes Jimmy through it. From then on, Dan was the coolest guy in the world. So Jimmy got to go in the mosh pit at White Zombie or whatever. So I don't remember taking him to too many other shows, but
I took Brian and Jimmy to see Primus.
Oh, that's right. Primus was a big one. Yeah, she said she took Brian and Jimmy both. That's with the guy spinning around with the bass guitar, right? Yeah. What's his name? Les Claypool, I think.
Something like that.
Anyway, Primus was cool. So is Primus that same kind of music? No, but it's interesting. It's different. It's cool. And Jimmy was willing to learn from, watch anybody. He used to watch Tony Bozzio videos, right? Mm-hmm. Always learning technique. Jeanette's the one who taught him how to drum properly, she would say. You don't need to do this. Yeah, he was able to drum without hurting himself. And eventually he'd say, I got to add some flair because, man, those guys are making me look bad, you know, whatever. But he could drum, really well with power without throwing his arms up in the air. Then he started doing it just because he needed to do it. Yeah. And he could look under his arm at you and wink, boom. When we were on stage, I had Katie and my daughter, a younger, a teenage girl, and me on stage behind them at the Ozfest. It was Ozfest. Now they're playing there. And that's an insane place to be. Ozzy played earlier on second stage, and we see these half-naked people walking around. Somebody's got a guy on the ground like a dog with a chain around his neck. Somebody else holding is like, oh my God, what is going on here? Anyway, crazy people. And eventually Sevenfold goes on kind of late. It's still daylight, but not too much. And Katie and I are behind him on stage. Jimmy, as they go out, drumming on the walls, and then they go out and they start playing. And they get one song in, they're playing Burn It Down. and the power goes out. You know, it takes him for a while to realize the power's gone out because Jimmy's got stuff on his ears and he's drumming. And then they come off. People are running. Everybody get off the stage. They got to figure out what's the problem. Turns out a car has hit a power pole outside the grounds, and the power's out. It's going to take them a while to get it back on. Jimmy comes back and he looks at me and Katie says, "I think you guys should leave now." Before the fires start, you know. And so Katie and I, we took his advice. We left. We look back. We see the smoke start coming up. Like, oh no, they're burning the place down. Well, anyway, turned out there was just some bonfires that they set, and it was no big deal. They eventually got the power back on, and they played. We weren't there.
Burn it down, and then that's what happens next.
Jimmy's like, "I think you guys should leave." He was very. So that's like we went to see him play a Chain Reaction. Let's say. We went to see him. We took them to play a Chain Reaction when they were first starting out as Avenged Sevenfold. Then they went on tour before Warped Tour. So they're touring with, you know, whatever band they can hook up with in the South, in the East, whatever. They're playing, and they came back to Chain Reaction. And man, impressive. Because at Chain Reaction, you take your band there and you got to agree to sell so many tickets. Yeah. You basically pay to play, you know, and we came back, and so they were playing later in the evening. So we watched some other bands, and first of all, these big people come out and they're checking for the mom. You okay? You okay? Do we need to get you a chair to stand on? Yeah. They put her up in the sound booth. Yeah, but it's funny how all these big, you know, I'm so cool, metalhead, whatever. They're real careful of the mothers and any old people who might get damaged, you know, like, so we're at the back. Anyway, it was pretty cool. But Jimmy comes out before they go to play and just appears out of the cloud, you know. "You guys, how are you guys? You guys okay?" And I said something like, "Yeah, oh man, these other bands aren't that good." He's like, he grabs me by the shoulders and he puts his head right up to my ear and he goes, "Everybody here is in a band. Be cool." You don't have to tell me it, you know, you don't have to make me feel better. Like, they're not as good as me. Everybody here is in a band. Be cool. I'm like, good advice from the child to the old man. I don't have to defend it anyway. So, and when they were getting ready to play, you know, they got the little fans on in there and it's kind of warm, but when Avenged Sevenfold started playing, the temperature in there went up like 15 degrees. Everybody's bouncing because, man, were they good. Yeah. And again, Matt out front is so impressive as the lead. And they looked in that one summer, like at one, I don't know if it wasn't even a year. Damn, they looked impressive. And of course, we already knew they were good. But anyway, yeah, it was fun. So now I have rambled through all kinds of things there.
No, that's amazing. Like, I mean, yeah, just there's some hilarity in it. There's some, you know, just
can I tell you another one? Oh. So I'm remembering so my brother-in-law is an old blues guitarist. I mean, he's been playing blues guitar for 30 years. Yeah. And he had been away. He had hurt himself anyway. He was kind of starting up again with a new band. And where do they get to play? Well, biker bars. That's where they're going to play. So they were going to play at a biker bar in San Pedro. So that's an hour from here. Whatever. Jimmy wants to go see him.
Part of this story, but yeah. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Jimmy wants to go be there, and so he's outside looking in, you know, because he can't be in the bar. And eventually he says, "Can I sit in?" They're like, "Okay." So Jimmy sits in, and it's like whatever song they pick, Jimmy's driving, and they're like, "Slow down, dude. You know, hang on. We're trying to keep up." Anyway, Donnie's like, "What the heck?" But it was kind of cool. But it's along the lines of, I can play. Yeah. Basketball, drums, I can play. Just let me in and I'll play. You know, let's play together. And the guys in Looney Booms, all these so mature older guys, they still like, let's play. So
what was the Looney Booms? Because I don't think I've ever heard of it before.
So that's the college. They were Jimmy's drum teacher. She had a percussion group at Harbor College. We were mentioning it a little that he got to join them because he was taking lessons with her and taking classes at Harbor College, but eventually he just got to play with them. And so we have concert footage from those.
One of the guys in Looney Booms recently posted a couple of Looney Booms things from their shows. So you can find them on YouTube. Looney,
Looney, Booms, Booms.
It's very, very much like Stomp, only it was way before Stomp.
This is all percussion. Do they have pink elephants on there?
Yeah, I think so.
Boy, Pink Elephants on Parade is so good. Anyway, and Jimmy usually played the drums with them. I mean, like a drum kit when they were playing other percussion instruments. And they had a bass player, Rob, one of the guys. Anyway, yeah, look it up. And if you can't find it, I imagine we could figure it out. But
I can send you links. Mm-hmm.
But Looney Booms was a percussion group. And Jimmy, if you get to see him there, you listen, you realize he's 12 years old. He's skinny. His voice is real high. He's a child, Wait, who's that? Whose voice is that? That's Jimmy. Whatever, it was back then. But again, no fear, no doubt. Just let's play. Black Page. Wasn't he playing Black Page for them? Frank Zappa stuff, the most complicated drum work you can ever find. That's the kind of thing he wanted to play. He wanted to learn. And when he got that, we got that award on his behalf posthumously, the Golden Gods Award. I mentioned the way he went from Metallica and then was Pantera and then it was Slayer. Listening, transcribing, playing Slayer. That's hard stuff to play, and he just wanted more and more. And of course he listened to Dream Theater, and that's why a great thing, Mike Portnoy, when Jimmy died, said, I've met him. I know he respected me. I respected him.
Did Mike and Jimmy actually meet then?
So I would say yes, because I don't think they just corresponded, because he knew Jimmy to an extent. Where he would have met him, I don't know, because their paths would not have crossed much. Maybe it was corresponding. I don't know that.
An award show or something, but yeah, I've find pictures or something of. There's a picture of Jimmy with Aaron, but there's pictures of Mike with Aaron. But I was curious whether Mike and Jimmy had ever actually met, or whether Mike or Jimmy had ever actually met Brooks either, with Bad Religion or anything.
So I don't know. I would say probably not, and not Aaron either. I don't think Jimmy ever met Aaron.
Maybe it's a fake photo then, but there's a picture of mine that looks the pair of them together, and Aaron was in his band Confide around 2000, whatever it was, but
playing Christian stuff, I think, mostly, and younger. So I would not guess that Jimmy ever met Aaron. Aaron could tell you otherwise, but I would say no.
Yeah.
And Portnoy, Jimmy had let Portnoy know that he thought a lot of him. That's how I want to say it. That he studied him, so somehow the respect was there. And Portnoy, I mean, it was enough of a connection that Portnoy was willing to step up and say, hey, I'll play it the way Jimmy would have played it. I'll play it the way you want, which is just a really amazing thing to do. So, really cool. We loved it. And, but anyway, they toured. I mean, they toured with every time they could find bands to tour with early on, they toured with them. So we'll probably have to talk about Warped Tours and all that some other time, but
yeah,
I've rambled, because thank you for listening.
I wouldn't say you've rambled. This is all
pork pies there. So I got to say something else. So Jimmy's a kid. Jimmy loves drumming. Jimmy loves basketball. You don't need anything to play basketball except new shoes, and we had to keep buying him new shoes. But drums, you need stuff, right?
Yeah.
When you play hard, you break cymbals. And We'll tell you another day about him finding his first drum kit and all the stuff that he bought in his first pork pie snare. Let's make that another day, okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
I got to check with my boss here.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Like I said, it's as long as you both agree on things, and but
Cool.
But yeah, thank you very much for all your time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing, and I'll look forward to future times whenever it fits into your schedule. I'm sure I can figure it out. We don't tend to have much going on in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Okay.
Well, fabulous. Thank you very much. I honestly do appreciate this more than you might think. So I'm
glad to do it.
Look forward to our next time. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you.
And you. Thanks.